and welcome to AI've Got Questions. I'm Stacey Epstein, your host. I'm a former CEO and four-time CMO, and I am in awe at how much AI is transforming our profession. I created this podcast to help expose some of the incredible new technologies and the amazing new ways we're doing work with AI in marketing and in go-to-market in general. I hope you enjoy the show. Here's the next episode. Today on our show, I'm excited to welcome Jon Gillham, who is the founder and CEO of Originality.ai. Jon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Stacey. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. Well, let's just start with learning a little bit about you. I always love to hear the journey of entrepreneurs and founders. So give us a little background about you.
Yeah, I'll give the kind of the shortish version, but went to school for engineering, worked at a refinery, always wanted to get back to my hometown to get to do the stuff that we love here, skiing and biking.
Wait,
And then
what's the hometown?
Collingwood, Ontario.
Oh, okay, great.
Pretty mediocre skiing, but for Ontario, it's okay. Um,
Right.
and then built up a portfolio of online businesses that always revolved around content, like creating content that would rank in Google. Built up an agency, sold it,
So
and
like an
then had
SEO agency?
yeah,
Okay.
like a content specific SEO agency,
Okay.
and then had sort of seen the wave of generative AI coming, predating ChatGPT, and then had built the current solution, Originality, to sort of meet that.
Okay. Well, tell us more about that need. What was that problem that you saw that you realized AI could solve?
So in the agency, we had a division of the agency that predated ChatGPT that was using AI to create content transparently for customers. So this was customers that wanted content generated by AI, paying a significantly reduced rate for that AI generated content. And then we had our sort of human written division, and customers were saying, well, how do you know that your writers in your human written division aren't using AI? And it was like, well, we have a policy, but the reality was we didn't have a great, like, we trust our writers, we have a policy, but we had no verification step. And so that's what we built Originality AI to do, was to be able to drive transparency between the writer, the agency, and the client, so that everybody understood if AI had been or hadn't been used. And we actually ended up launching the weekend before ChatGPT launched.
That's interesting timing for you.
Yeah. It was at first I was disappointed because we had trained on the existing AI models that existed in the world,
Yeah.
and then when we realized that ChatGPT was a little bit simplified, but it was a wrapper on GPT-3 and 3.5 at the time, so it was still accurate, and so that was good.
Interesting. Okay. So give me the elevator pitch for Originality.
Yeah, so if you're a marketer, you're happy to pay a writer $100, $300,000, whatever your rate might be for an article. You're not super happy to find out that they copied and pasted it out of ChatGPT in 10 seconds. And the risk associated with publishing AI generated content on your website is extremely consequential, both from a Google visibility standpoint and from a brand reputation standpoint, that it's in the long run, we want it to hopefully be irresponsible to publish content without having run it through Originality.
Interesting. This is, I think, a really important conversation because a lot of content teams are leveraging AI left and right to generate content. And I think it's one of the areas where marketers see a lot of potential. And hey, I can generate content a lot faster, a lot easier, and I'm going to rank higher and I'm going to get more inbound. I think we all know marketing has evolved into a content game for sure. And so let's dive into the risks. Because if I'm devil's advocate, I just say, okay, I might sacrifice a little bit of ranking, but I'm generating so many different types of content that it's overall going to improve my lead generation efforts. Go into detail. Tell me why it's risky to leverage AI to generate content.
It is a key question. I mean, we're talking about it in a sort of framework of risk, which makes a ton of sense because I think there is balancing acts. So if we talk about some of the risks and some of the data that we have, Google is on an absolute war against AI generated spam. Mass generated content, Google is on a war against. Generally, there is sort of collateral damage when Google is on a war with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Sites are being de-indexed that have been mass published AI generated content. Sites are being penalized that have mass published AI generated content. We have had websites come to us that have said, my site got de-indexed by Google, my writers weren't using AI, and we run their content through the tool and we say your writers were using AI, you just didn't know. And so the writers have been paid. The risk owner, the website owner, has now had their entire business evaporated, and they paid for the right for the content, got AI content, published it, got penalized by Google, and now they're left holding a site that has no traffic. And so that's the Google risk is very real. Reputational harm risk is also real. So we just did an interesting study this a couple weeks back where there was Chicago Sun-Times published a summer book list that had 10 of the 15 books were totally hallucinated, and they got roasted by many other publications that said is this the state of journalism that we're publishing just made up books in a summer reading list, and that would have cost 10 cents and 14 seconds to run through Originality to know that it was one AI generated, and then we have a fact checker as well. And so these are some of the risks. There's sort of the visibility risk that exists with Google penalizing sites, and they don't want their search results to be overrun by AI content. They want to search results human, and then they produce their own AI overview.
Interesting. So content teams should not be leveraging AI to generate content. Is that the basic point here?
I think no. I think it is a risk that is worth understanding. I think what content teams should not be doing is making the risk decision for where AI gets used within their organization without the ultimate risk owner approving that decision. And so if you're a marketing team, you shouldn't leave it up to the content creators to decide how and where AI gets used in their content creation stack. That should be a decision that is made by the risk owner, whether that's like the marketing manager, whether that's the business owner, whoever sort of owns that risk should be the one that is making the decision, and then they should be using tools and policies and procedures and training and all sort of the tactics that they have to make sure that the company is following those guidelines.
Got it.
We use AI in some pockets of our site, but that's sort of known and we understand why we're doing it and we accept the risk associated with it.
So you're not asserting that it's entirely bad to use AI to generate content. You're just
Correct.
saying you should make a decision on how much risk you're willing to tolerate based on what you think the outcomes might be. And originality will help you ensure that your team is complying with your policy.
Exactly.
Okay, very interesting because I do think a lot of content teams are leaning more and more toward AI. So let's get into the detail of what risk it uncovers. So let's say and I do this all the time with AI. I know what I want to say. It is original thought. The points of an article or an argument or whatever I'm writing come from me and they're original.
Yep.
But I might use AI to clean it up into nice, pretty paragraphs or sentences. What would originality think of that?
So it depends on the amount that it has been edited. We have a model that if your policy is no AI ever, period, we
Yeah.
have a model that's called Turbo, which allows for kind of no AI editing. And then we have a model that's light that allows for AI editing. And so if you're in the sort of view of great, Stacey runs the marketing for this company, and producing great content, we're going to run it through Originality to make sure that there's a human in the loop. And so it would take that content, run it through, depending on the amount of editing. So if it's like 10% of the content has been changed, but with AI, 90% was human, it will call it aims to call that content human. And then it also will show whether it's been plagiarized, fact check, readability, grammar, spelling. And so sort of any step that an editor does, the tool helps do that. Specific to the AI detection, it'll show you in that case, it's like, yep, we know we've seen the policy. We've agreed that Stacey will use AI editing within like 5-10%, and the tool will say, yeah, that is human content, and we can be confident that a human has been in the loop.
Interesting. I have a philosophical question for you, and it's on the reputation side. And like your example of the hallucination of the books is obviously, no one could argue that that's a complete reputational disaster. But sometimes I'll see people complaining on LinkedIn that, oh, LinkedIn has just become all people using AI to write their posts. And
Yep.
there's part of me that understands the frustration, but there's also part of me that's like, why do we care? As long as it's the message the person wants to send, does it really matter if AI wrote it or not? So putting hallucinations and inaccuracies accuracies aside, do you have an opinion on whether it's poor form to use AI to generate thoughts and comments?
So I think this is a question that society's going to wrestle with. I think there's pockets that are absolutely right. That hallucination, we'll touch on LinkedIn here in a second, but it's so like if I'm reading a review for, let's call it a kid's mountain bike seat, like a shotgun seat that they can sit on. I don't want to read that. I don't want to read a personal experience review that was written by AI. That was totally made up by AI. I don't want to read that. I want to read the human review. And so I think society's going to wrestle with like where is it okay and where is it not okay. LinkedIn, we ran a study. 60% of long form posts are AI generated. There, if I could flip a button that would turn that 60% off, I would do that personally. I think that these platforms don't care. They're highly confident in their algorithms to sort of optimize for visibility and engagement. And so they just want more content. And so I think they don't mind AI slop coming in because they have the systems in place to try and have the cream, whether it's been human or AI generated, and that cream is sort of engagement that they're trying to optimize for rising to the top. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most useful content for me to consume. If I could flip a switch, I would personally would choose to, but I appreciate that others would choose not to.
It's sort of an interesting monetization strategy. If LinkedIn created a subscription where you pay to only get original content, it would be kind of interesting. I mean, who knows where we're headed with all this? Imagine if I could flip a switch in my internet browser.
Yep.
I probably wouldn't get a lot back. On this show, we talk so much about leveraging AI to do better in marketing, but there is sort of this inherent we want to use it to do better, but do humans want to consume it? There's a lot of other ways to use AI within marketing to make our jobs better. You can create
Yep.
agents to do all sorts of things like operational
Right.
work, et cetera. But the content side of things, I think, is the natural place everybody went to as the first
Yep.
place to disrupt. But it's also dangerous because humans don't necessarily want to read it.
Right. And I think there's all kinds of different content where it's great and fine. So, for example, we do a bunch of stat pages, and it's great for that where we can verify that we have the stat and then communicate that stat within the context of that piece of content as it relates to all the other tools. I think it's a great use case for it where we've got protections in place to avoid the hallucinations because we're bringing in the stat, and it's a great use case. And we disclose that we use it and they perform fine, and I think it's a great use case. Yeah, but I do think if it's communication from an organization that feels like it should be coming from a human, it can be brand damaging when the people that are consuming that content sort of get the suspicion that or find out that yeah, that was AI generated, and you asked me to put in how much effort to sort of consume this knowledge and understand it, and you weren't willing to put in that same level of effort.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about some of your customers. Who is your target market? Can you sell this to high schools so that kids are not writing AI essays? I have one of
Yeah.
those myself, but tell us about your target market.
Our target market is marketers. Anybody that's publishing content on the web need to drive. There needs to be an understanding between the writer, the editor, the agency, the publisher, or marketing company. So anybody that's publishing content on the web, we build tools to help them perform the function of a copy editor better. So if you're acting as a copy editor, sometimes that's your title, sometimes you're a marketing lead and you function as a copy editor. That's who we build tooling for. We have academia use case certainly came up, and as we have thousands of users from within academia. We don't love the use case. AI detection tools, they're classifiers, which can be highly accurate but not perfect. You can kind of think about it similar to like the predicting the weather, where it's like, again, pretty accurate, not always gonna be perfect. And so the result of that is that in environments where you need perfection, which to dole out academic disciplinary action, you need pretty darn close to perfection and communicate why they're not a great tool for that world. And so we don't love that use case, even though we have thousands of users from there. We really like the use case within marketing
Yeah,
organizations to
makes
drive transparency, because then it can lead to a conversation because there's already an established professional relationship as opposed to a full adversarial approach like it exists within academia.
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you envision a day where there'll be like a checked by originality stamp on a website so that humans can trust the content?
It's on the roadmap. Thought about it. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right. I don't know if that's the right use case because I don't. I think similar to that earlier conversation, like we're not saying human is good, AI is bad.
Yeah.
We're saying, and I think that that stamp would say that would sort of maybe communicate that more than we really mean to communicate that. Whereas I think AI is great when it's been used for the right reasons intelligently and transparently. And so I don't know if we'll do that or not. It's on the roadmap, but not sure if we'll build it.
Yeah, I like your approach. You're not really taking a stand. You're just saying we're here to help you comply with what your stand is. And
Right.
if your stand is a little bit of AI is fine, or whatever it is, then originality will help you enforce that. But we're not getting into the wars of human versus AI.
Right. Right. I think yeah, our stand is fairness and transparency. How you choose to use it is your call.
And how easy is it to use? I mean, do I just funnel my content through it? How does it work?
Yeah, copy. If you've ever used a plagiarism checker, it works very similar to a plagiarism checker. Either upload the content, paste in the content. We have some bulk scans, website scans, so you can see how much AI slop or how much AI content has sort of already gotten into your website. And so you can just enter your URL and it'll scan your entire site, or you can upload any library of content as well and see if it's AI has gotten in there.
Interesting. Do you sell to companies, individuals?
We're about 60% of our users are kind of web publishers and or writers. That's the majority of our use case. And so it's we sell to both companies and to writers.
Well, I learned a lot, as I always do. It's certainly a very interesting time as we live through the changes and how this is all going. I mean, who knows? Google might decide not to wage a war against AI content. You know, it could
Yeah.
just everything could change. Any thoughts on the future, where we're headed?
Uh I think it's yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think authorship is gonna matter more. I think sort of people putting their name behind content is gonna mean more to people in the future. And I think marketers, I think the type of content is going to continue to change. That your sort of long form informational content will be to seed LLMs, and then your content that humans interact with will be far more. Well, I think it's worthwhile to think about that content that the humans will interact with being beyond just words, and how do you add value? Is that the transaction layer and sort of that whole marketing funnel being compressed with a lot of interaction happening in the LLM? You got some informational content to seed the LLM, and then you've got your transaction layer happening on your site. I think that's kind of probably the future, but who knows? It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're here and talking about it. Thank you, John, so much for joining the show. I'm assuming they can find you at originality.
Yeah, originality.ai or LinkedIn, Jon Gillham, or you can email me, jon@originality.ai.
Well, thank you. We're in the opposite of ski season right now, but it's just around the corner. So maybe we'll see you on the slopes.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Take care.